Hello everyone, it's the beginning of a new year, which means 2014 has come to a close and the wonders of 2015 are in front of us. 2014 was an interesting year for video games. It was full of great and not so great games, but most of all, it will probably go down as a year filled with lots of troublesome AAA launches and buggy products. Still, I don't quite get why some people are saying it was an awful year for video games, because there were some fantastic gems this year. People just need to take their blinkers off and look from looking at the highest of high AAA games and look around because quality was still there. The new year also means that I would like to show you my top 10 games of 2014. But before I do that, enjoy the games that have been flashing in front of you and will continue to flash before your very eyes, as these games didn't quite make my top 10 but are still very good games that I believe you should give a try. I'll be back after the clip has finished with my top 10.
I created this world. You cannot keep me here.
I've heard stories about you. You used to be something. They used to fear you. Everyone hide. The wolf is coming.
Sheriff, you are the one charged with protecting the citizens of Fable Town. Your failure to do so cost someone their life.
We need to figure out what happened here and find whoever did this.
Let me handle it.
What do you want, Sheriff?
I got a few questions.
This is exactly what I would expect from you. Storm in, try to scare people.
Who are you working for?
Now it's time to get serious. Here are my top 10 games of 2014. Number 10. Dark Souls 2 is a fascinating game. While I don't think this sequel is as good as Dark Souls or Demon's Souls, it's still a great game that contains the Souls' well-known challenging gameplay, which kept me coming back for more after seeing the familiar words of "You died" splashed all over my screen time and time again. The open world level design doesn't feel as naturally connected as the world in Dark Souls, and the boss fights are too focused on humanoid knights and cheap difficulty by using the premise of more is harder. But even so, Dark Souls 2 plays exceptionally well, with its methodical combat being superbly rewarding, and conquering each area of the game came with a smiling accomplishment. You know how great this series is when the weaker entry in it still remains one of the best games of the year. That just shows you how well these games are made, and other companies can't quite capture the essence of how deep and rewarding the Souls games are. Number 9. I'm a big fan of rhythm games, but it's been a sad time for fans of the genre, as the past few years have been dead. The quirky magical rhythm games that used to brew on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 are no longer alive, but Sega single-handedly offered me a sweet reward with Hatsune Miku Project Diva F2. Featuring a more varied selection of tunes, Project Diva 2 is an addictive, charming rhythm game that challenges not only your fingers, but your taste in music, as the game's soundtrack becomes more than just a guilty pleasure. I can listen to these tunes on a daily basis, such as this one that's going to play right now. Hatsune Miku's second English release supplies more wonderful visuals, catchy tunes and addictive gameplay. That was my go-to game for some quick fun this year. Number 8. Reaper of Souls is the expansion pack Diablo 3 was crying out for. Not only did Diablo 3 gain the 2.0 patch, which brought better implemented loot mechanics that was originally experimented on with the console version, changing the focus of the loot drop so that your character gained more gear. Plus, all that awful catering to the now eradicated auction house means that Diablo 3 is a better game. Blizzard rebalanced and fine-tuned small and meaningful parts of the game, similar to a chef crafting their masterful gourmet meal, and released a product with nothing but positive changes to the core gameplay. This was for fans who grew tired of the endgame, as the evolution of Diablo 3 moved in the right direction to bring the addictive adventure mode, an area of the game that kept me busy for a few months after launch so I could beat the hard difficulties and gain the best gear. Not many games this year have been playing for over 100 hours, but Reaper of Souls did just that, and is one of the most addictive games of 2014. Number 7.
To feel weak, beaten.
Machine Games' take on Wolfenstein was a nice breath of fresh air for the first-person shooter genre. It was a title that the developers had full confidence in, which is evident by the lack of any multiplayer components. A feature normally shoehorned into the game to give it a tick on the box, but not here. Instead, what you have is arcade shooting that feels great, is very responsive, but not in the autopilot snapping Call of Duty way, and features a neat linear mechanic that helps players pop out of cover at various angles. Its level design is something that should be noted as being excellent, offering ways to play the game stealthily. You can actually finish some levels without killing anyone, but if you don't want to do that, you don't have to, and you can go all guns blazing shooting up every Nazi that stands in your way. It's overly stupid in its premise, yet even though the story is some crazy alternative reality 1960s Nazi world, which has the rulers riding mechs and guard dogs replaced with robo-dogs, the story is actually interesting and the characters are well written. They even managed to give personality to BJ Blazkowicz, the guy who must have been the joke of the class of the early 90s, comes alive here in the leading role, which is some accomplishment when you have a name that begins with BJ. Number 6. I flipping love Street Fighter 4, so getting its latest and last iteration with new mechanics and Elena, a character I've been wanting in Street Fighter 4 since Dudley and Makoto were added in Super, automatically make this into my top 10. Street Fighter 4 is a game I have poured hours upon hours into across various formats, and I still do the same with Ultra Street Fighter 4, thanks to its core mechanics being some of the best in the genre. Remember, this game pretty much kickstarted the fighting game genre again, and now the fighting game scene is thriving bigger and better than before. The game just recently gained a Mega Mode, a funky twist on how characters play, adding new moves and changing properties of existing ones. Who would think Ken would be able to shoot fireballs from his feet, or that Guile can finally throw more than one sonic boom at a time? Ultra Street Fighter 4 is a great closure to the best fighting game of the last generation. Now I'll keep pouring hours into this game until Street Fighter 5 hits. Number 5. Blending the dungeon crawling and mapping elements of Atlus's Etrian Odyssey games with the cast and story of Persona sounds like a strange combination, but in reality it's built together exceptionally well, with the developers showing utmost respect to both franchises. It features the interesting story elements from the Persona universe, with the fantastic cast of characters from Persona 3 and Persona 4 that fans already know and love, bringing their charm and humour to this game. On top of this, you have the brilliant soundtrack and chibi art style that manages to capture the essence of the Persona cast and shrink them to adorable sizes. Most importantly of all is the gameplay, which requires the player to be on top of their game. Just because it has the Persona name tagged to it, it doesn't mean that it has reduced its difficulty that the Etrian Odyssey games are known for. Blending in the magic moves from Persona, players need to know their bufus from their Zeos to beat the foes using their weaknesses as their advantage, while overcoming the dreaded perils of the FOEs to make it through this long journey. It's hard, charming and addictive, and it features some of my favourite RPG characters. This is a spin-off worthy of the Persona name and then some. Number 4. Forza Horizon was my favourite racer of 2012, so I was stoked to see that Xbox One would receive a sequel to what was probably the best arcade racer since Project Gotham Racing 4. Forza Horizon 2 takes the open world concept of the first game and increases the map by 3 times the size, while also adding more varied locations than the brown deserts of Colorado by moving to Europe and using the southern France and northern Italy as a location, bringing lush green fields, forests, mountain roads and glowing cities for a more interesting open world and racecourse layouts. There is something exhilarating about driving an expensive car, speeding through a field of corn at 100 miles per hour and then smashing through a fence to the finish line. Forza Horizon 2 is full of these moments, and the wonderful inclusion of dynamic weather is awesome, and is a much needed feature in the main Forza series. Weather makes racing Horizon 2 more exciting as you fight the ground for grip and fine tune your sight to look past the hammering rain for the next upcoming corner. With more events spread around the different car types, a huge amount of content and the new release add-on that takes the weather to the extreme on Storm Island, Forza Horizon 2 is the best car racer of the year and will last weeks before anyone is finished with it. Number 3. Okay, so it seems strange that I'm sticking 2 titles in the same series at the same position, but hear me out, okay, because there's reasons why. The first reason is that in Japan, these 2 games were remakes of PSP games for the PS Vita that came on the same cart as a collection. Having never been released in English, Nippon Ichi Software decided to release them separately for the Western market. 2. The games have a connection between each other, as the second continues on with the story arc, while having its own thing going on as well. These 2 games deserve to be in any top 10 for delivering some exciting, thought-provoking and interesting storytelling, one of the best stories of the year, while throwing in fun courtroom drama with speedier gameplay than the likes of the brilliant Ace Attorney games, along with a wonderful soundtrack to boot. Danganronpa wouldn't let me put the Vita down, showcasing its strong hold on me while I will try to uncover what the hell is going on in this twisted murder mystery game.
This is bad.
Just spit it out already.
Everything they...
Number 2. I have heard people say that the first Mario Kart you play ends up your favourite. That was never the case for me. I have played each Mario Kart release before the next one, starting from the genre-defining Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. My favourite Mario Kart is actually Mario Kart 64, but now after the release of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, that is no longer the case. Mario Kart 8 is not only a beautiful game to look at that oozes Nintendo's charming art direction with crisp, colourful graphics, but it's the track design that really shows what the designers can do at Nintendo. The new zero-gravity elements add a much-needed refresher to the karting formula, used in ways to craft some of the best tracks in the series. The only bummer is that the battle mode sucks ass, but with online working so well, you'll be glued to the racing in the clouds of Cloud Top Cruise or driving down the waterfall in Shy Guy Falls to even give a care. It should be noted that I feel Mario Kart 8 received some of the best downloadable content of the year, touching upon non-Mario franchises such as The Legend of Zelda and F-Zero to bring characters and courses based on other Nintendo games. With the DLC looking like it's leading to some sort of Mario Kart All-Stars racing game for the next installment, the future is looking even brighter for Mario Kart after this brilliant sequel. Number 1.
Cereza, you haven't felt anything strange recently. Our friends in Paradiso are far too quiet.
I see Bayonetta 2 as the Super Mario Galaxy 2 of the character action genre. The first Bayonetta was a brilliant game with the best and most refined combat mechanics out there. It's a game that was close to the perfection of the art of action fighting, a genre that playing games knows all too well. The game didn't need a sequel because if Bayonetta 2 didn't exist, then the original game would still be the best going, just like Super Mario Galaxy. But we do have a sequel, and just like Super Mario Galaxy 2, Bayonetta 2 takes the concepts from the first game and refines them to get closer to perfection. The addition of unbred climax adds a bit of seasoning to the combat, enough to appreciate the inclusion, but not spoil what was already mechanically brilliant. The level design is better and much more colourful than the original, and the plot takes Bayonetta through set pieces that had me smiling with so much enjoyment I had ice packs on my cheeks from the muscle strain, while at the same time in disbelief that this crazy shit on screen was actually happening on my Wii U. All these tweaks to the existing Bayonetta formula means Bayonetta 2 is the best character action game ever, my game of the year for 2014 and one of my favourite games of all time. I have to offer my thanks to Nintendo for allowing Platinum Games to prove again that they are the masters of action. Well, that's the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, feel free to comment, and if you didn't like my list, then you can also comment and tell me why, and tell me what your favourite games are. But yeah, on that note, I wish you all a great 2015. I hope you get to play lots of games, and hopefully less buggy games will be out in that year than it was in 2014. But it's looking promising. There's a lot of good games coming out in 2015 I'm really excited for. But there's just one game that I really can't wait for. So I'm going to close this video with a trailer for that game, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.